Hey everybody, it's the Laser Wizard, and I got some pretty exciting stuff to show you guys today. Today we're going to be going over these fancy schmancy Air Assist nozzles I just designed and made. Made out of solid brass. You got air inlet here, and a set screw on this side, and a very nice fine orifice hole. And now I'll show you guys how this lens is universal for pretty much any lens you may have, at least with few of them. Here we have a 5-watt FoxAlien laser module with a stock lens on it. Here we have a 15-watt old previous laser module with the G8 lens installed. And right here is the brand new 20-watt with the fixed focus lens. So if you've got the 5-watt or pretty much any of the lasers that has, you still got your stock lens on it, then in order to achieve the ideal focus point, the ideal focal length is about 30 millimeters, and that's true for all of them here. However, in order to achieve a 30 millimeter focal length, you have to back this thing off beyond the engagement of this O-ring, and that makes it wobbly. So I have a good solution for that. And right here I already have a stock lens where I've removed the O-ring. And you're going to want to remove that O-ring if you're getting these nozzles. And what you're going to do, I've got this lock ring here. I'm going to screw it right in. And then we screw it into the laser module. And you're going to have to set the ideal focal length. But once you have that set, then you can lock it in with this ring. Once that ring is locked in, the nozzle just slips right on. And I've machined that very precisely so there's no give and no wobble. That way the laser beam comes out right down the middle. And you torque it in, and you're good. Good to go. Once it's on there, once you've got the set screw torqued on, you can give it another extra little tug, and that's to tighten down that ring further still. Since that lock ring is round, it's kind of hard to put a lot of torque on it, but you can do that once the set screw's on there. So if you've got a G8 lens, which I highly recommend, this lens is amazing, and if you have one, then you know the one issue with it, and that is that you only got to screw it in about like a turn or a turn and a half, maybe 2 turns most, and that's to get it at its sweet spot, 30 millimeters. Any more in, and that brings that focal length further away, but you want it to be right at 30 millimeters. So the solution for me and for most people is usually to put a huge amount of Teflon tape onto the lens, but with my lock ring you can screw it right in and get those few threads to stick out. Now when you screw it on, you can lock it right in, and it's much more rigid, no wobble, no Teflon tape. And then put on the nozzle. It's nice and firm. Tighten the set screw, give it a little bit of an extra tug, and you're good to go. And easiest of all, if you've got the new 20-watt module, I still have an old sticker on here. I've got one of the first versions here, but they're all the same. We got the same diameter copper round here, there you go. You've got the most ideal Air Assist nozzle for your laser. And I thought this through long and hard. I wanted to make sure that these nozzles would be universal. And I'm happy with this design, because if you've got a stock lens and you're afraid that if you upgrade later down the line and you want a G8 lens, or if you get the new fixed focus lens, well, same air nozzle goes right on and you don't gotta worry. And once that's on, a little tube I got on the side takes a 1/8 inch ID tubing, and it's got a nice snug fit, and you just gotta hook that up to an air compressor. I recommend a 32 watt aquarium pump, and then you're gonna have to get 1/8 inch ID tubing as flexible as you can get and fish it through your drag chains and then up to your compressor. Next, I'm going to demonstrate to you guys the difference between having Air Assist and not having Air Assist, and the difference it makes in your cuts. The biggest difference is with cutting, and it's very important to have Air Assist if you're attempting to do any sort of cutting with any kind of laser, especially if it's a diode laser. Diodes need as much help as they can get. Luckily here, FoxAlien's dealing with some of the most powerful ones you can get, at least in terms of diode lasers. And Air Assist is tremendous. It does a few different things. It helps clear the smoke immediately out of the path of the laser beam, continuously. The moment the photons hit your surface, they vaporize, and the beam, the next photons in line, they hit that smoke and they hit that soot, and they absorb the energy instead of delivering that energy down onto the next layer of cut. Air Assist greatly helps in decreasing the number of passes needed, and it leaves a much cleaner edge versus having a very dark black sooty edge if you don't have Air Assist. And I'm going to demonstrate that next. The other very important thing that Air Assist does when you're cutting is that it acts the same way that when a blacksmith has a bellows, when they're blowing air on the charcoals, it makes them burn hotter and makes them glow brighter. Same thing is true if you ever put out a campfire and if you see those glowing embers, if you blow on them or if you fan them, they will glow brighter, and you can even sometimes reignite those logs if you just fan them on oxygen alone. And when that laser beam is hitting your wood piece, for example, once that spot vaporizes, it consumes that oxygen around it, and it starves the next layer down below it of that oxygen needed to kind of do this conversion process, this burning. Air Assist is always blowing, and it's acting as that bellows, and I feel that's how it helps even make that flame burn hotter. Since for a lot of the lenses, at least the ones I recommend, including the stock lens, the G8 lens, and then the new fixed focus lens, the ideal focal length is 30 millimeters. So I've made my nozzles to be exactly, more or less, 25 millimeters. That way there's a 5 millimeter distance to your workpiece, because sometimes there's warps in the plywood and you don't want to scrape along it. 5 millimeters is a good distance, and hopefully I can demonstrate how well it can work. Alright, I've created a test cut file and hopefully it goes well. This is 5 millimeter thick plywood, and we're going to first do the test with Air Assist hooked up with my air nozzle, and then we're going to run the test without it and compare the two. Hopefully it goes well. Alright, for the next test, I've taken off the Air Assist Nozzle and I've turned off my air compressor, and we're gonna see what happens. I'm a little concerned that when it's gonna do the very slow 50 millimeters a minute, that it's gonna start a fire, but we'll see. One of the other big reasons for having air assist is it's always constantly blowing the flame out. On a lot of higher end and much more powerful laser machines, when they catch fire, it's usually when their air assist system catches fire, or should I say, I'm sorry, when it fails, and then it just catches the material on fire. But we'll see how it goes here. I should have maybe had a little bit extra passes in there. I might actually program those in and run them here. But we'll see how it does it without the air assist here. So that did catch fire there, right there for a moment there. I saw it underneath. I had to blow it out. You never ever want to leave your laser unsupervised and unattended. But having an air assist is the number one most important thing to ensuring that your stuff doesn't catch fire. And I'm not sure if the difference is apparent yet or not, but not having that air assist is not a good idea, especially when you're dealing with a high power laser. I don't usually ever run my laser at these slow speeds. I'm just trying to really emphasize and exaggerate the differences here. This 5mm plywood, I think I was doing about 6 passes or 7 passes at about, I think, 400 millimeters a minute. I'll have to do another separate test at maybe more passes and faster speeds. But you should never really ever have to be running it this slow, even if you're trying to cut. If you have to go this slow, I'd rather you do more passes at a faster speed. And as you can see, as it starts getting faster and faster, the lines are a little bit cleaner and cleaner, and the cuts come out a little bit cleaner and cleaner themselves. Okay, well, let's see how this compares here. So, very dangerous to run it at low speeds with no air assist. And All of these are, I mean, quite fat and quite charred. But here with Air Assist, very clean. And here's the backside. So even here, it's kind of too slow of a speed. It was kind of burning through. But here, I mean, it was terrible. Something caught fire underneath it at one point because I had to blow it out. And these are the ones that cut out. And the edges, very nice and clean. Like a caramel color. I'll set up one more pair of test charts and we'll run another test. Okay, I've modified my file and condensed it and added 2 more stages of passes, 5 and 6 passes, and we're using 3.5 millimeter plywood now. Here's where I've done most of my cutting on, and we'll see how it goes. This is with Air Assist. Alright, I think that test performed beautifully well. I'm gonna take the Air Assist nozzle off and I'm gonna run the file next to this one with no Air Assist, and we'll compare how those two look. Alright, and here we go. Same exact file, same exact settings, just moved over a little bit, and no Air Assist. Let's hope for the best. Okay, and that is the no Air Assist test done. And I hope y'all don't think I'm exaggerating when I say that Air Assist is very important. These, hey, some of these are coming through. But as you can see, these just fell right out. I mean, hands down, I mean, it takes at least a whole pass away, 1 pass less, and then just the quality and the cleanliness of the cut afterwards. It's not a question of if you should have Air Assist, it's a question of what's the best Air Assist I can get and how can I make it better. And I hope y'all are learning how to make it better in this video. And I'm going to try and show the sweet spot for a number of passes I feel is about 4 to 5. And with that you can get much cleaner looking sides. It's a little hard to demonstrate on these tiny little pieces, but these are going to be much darker because the smoke has nowhere to go really. And you can see the backside of these get charred. These stay pretty clean on both sides, nice and clean and crisp and sharp. This one's got some charring. But we'll try to run this test again on the 5mm plywood and give that a better fighting chance with a little bit extra passes. Alright, this is the 5mm plywood, and I've created a new test chart for it. One that I think hopefully will be a better representation of proper cutting parameters for this type of plywood. 5mm, and shouldn't take that long, I believe 6 minutes. Let's hope for the best. Alright, I think that was a pretty good test. Now I'm going to take the air nozzle off, turn the air compressor off, and we're going to run it without the air assist. Alright, and as customary, I always frame it out. And we're gonna send it, and we're gonna hope for the best. Okay, I think that was a very good test. Let's see how the two compare just on liftoff. And I gotta say, it's hard to deny the difference here. See what comes out here. Hey, these, they're coming through. Not that one. Nope. So, there you have it, folks. No air assist, air assist. Let's take a peek at the behind. And this is no air assist. And this is with air assist. Pretty clean, comparatively. So I hope that helps prove to you guys the importance of having not just air assist. It's not just enough to be blowing some air around. It's solve quite a few of your headaches by just getting yourself one of these. I try and I can't think of a better design myself. If you got better ideas, man, good luck. Okay, this next test that I'm going to perform, it's the same file, the same chart that I have ran just below this one. This is 3.5 millimeter plywood, and this time I'm testing the 15 watt FoxAlien module, the one that has an adjustable lens on it, but I've replaced it with the G8 lens. So this test is to see how it compares to the 20 watter. Down here right below, this was the 20 watt module with the fixed focus lens at a 30 millimeter focal length, and I have set the G8 lens to be exactly 30 millimeters also, spot on. And we'll see how I'm going to run this exact file right up there, so it's the same wood, but it's the 15 watter with the G8 lens. I'm going to see how that compares. I'm very curious myself. I'm hoping it does pretty well. So, here we go. Okay, that looks like it did pretty good. Very good, actually. Let's unclamp this. So right off the bat, just dropping it off, or lifting off, it's done about the same. And let's see what we can poke through. Nope, these are still in there. This one's wobbling. So, takes about a whole extra pass. You've got the 15 watter with the G8, but still performs pretty good. Now, I could have focused this a little bit deeper in, maybe a millimeter lower. For the 20 watter with the fixed focus, I actually had it focused at 29 millimeters. This one I had focused right on the surface. So I'll actually run that test one more time up here. Focused a little bit lower, and we'll see what difference that'll make. Alright, I have lowered the laser by 1 millimeter. That way the focal point is 1 millimeter into this wood, and this wood is 3.5 millimeters thick. We'll see how that compares to this previous test we just did. And also, yeah, I've noticed that this square here, I've only had set to one pass whereas it should be two. Not that it makes a difference, even this one didn't go through, but I've corrected that now, so that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, well, let's take an inspection. This one almost. So it did about the same, maybe a little bit worse actually. And the other thing that I'm also gonna next time in another video demonstrate is that technically engraving comes out cleaner without air assist. Here you can see a big difference between how it looks here versus here. Same exact speed and power settings. However, I slowed down the feed rate. I was doing these at 2,500 millimeters a minute, and then these I did at 2,000. And it's because at 2,500 my whole machine was shaking around. So that's why with the G8 here it looks darker, but it's also much slower. I'll do a engraving comparative test later down the line. But next, after this, I'm going to test what a stock lens can do in the 15-watt laser when it's focused at the same focal length, 30 millimeters. And that's made possible with the lock ring that I'm making here. And we'll compare that to the G8 lens. Alright, for the stock lens, I'm trying to make sure that I give it the best shot it can get. So I want to show you, everybody, how I focus my lenses. So I have a piece of plywood here. It's the one I've been using for my tests here. And I like to take a red Sharpie marker, permanent Sharpie, and make a nice thick saturated section, usually in a corner of the wood I'm working with. And I use that to focus my beam onto. And the reason for that is that it makes it one of the easiest to see the beam spot. If you have it on the wood directly, then it the fibers conduct it. It's almost like a fiber optic type of an effect. So I use the red Sharpie, and then here I have a very cheap, I think it was 20 bucks shipped, a USB microscope. Very handy thing. And then I have a pair of goggles here, laser safety goggles, to filter it so that I can see it properly. And this light here helps kind of illuminate it on the feed here. So this is it right here, and that's the beam spot right there. And I'm going to show you what happens when I turn this knob up and down. You see that? That beam gets wider and wider. If I go back in the other direction, it gets tinier and tinier, and that's the sweet spot right about there, and then it starts getting bigger again. So you want to walk it back and forth a good couple times until you kind of get the feel for it, and then you have to be conscious about whether you're bringing it up or down that focal point. And it makes a difference whether if you want to defocus it, whether you defocus it above, a millimeter, or lower a millimeter is going to affect how that is going to come out. So this is how I make sure once I found that perfect spot, I set it to 30 millimeters. So right now, from the surface to the bottom of the heatsink, it's 30 millimeters. And I made sure of that, and I locked it in with my lock ring here. And this stock lens is now unscrewed beyond the point where that O-ring can engage, but the lock ring holds it in place and holds it locked down. And we're gonna now put on my nozzle, and we're gonna see how the stock lens compares to the G8 lens. So this is the final test I think I'm gonna do for now. And this is the 15-watt FoxAlien laser module with the stock factory lens. However, it's set to a 30 millimeter focal length, which I think is kind of the sweet spot. Plus or minus probably a few millimeters. But I've got it focused to 30 millimeter focal length right now. I've got it locked in with my lock ring, and I've got my Air Assist Nozzle installed. And we're going to run the same exact test, and we're going to see how the G8 lens compares to what the stock lens is about to do. So I'm very impressed here. This is incredible. Look at this. It's performed, I think, already better than the G8 lens. I don't think I've ever tried the stock lens calibrated so well before. And these can almost come through. Look at that. That's amazing. So that's with the stock lens right here. Already cut in one less pass at the higher speeds here. That's what the backside looks like. That's pretty insane. So as long as you're able to focus that stock lens down to 30 millimeters, and ideally with a microscope, then man, that's some pretty good cut in there. And I would like to just show you all a quick rundown of my setup here. My Air Assist hose goes all the way through my drag chain, comes on here and goes through my other drag chain, and comes down and into my air compressor pump. And very important, the inlet of my air compressor pump, I have a tube coming out right here so that it's sucking in fresh air, not smoke, because before I had this just open right here and it would constantly suck up smoke and deposit it onto the lens. And I have a solid state relay hooked up there, and there's the plug for the air compressor, so my controller is what triggers the air compressor on and off. And this is just a 32 watt, I'm sorry, aquarium pump off Amazon. You can get whatever pump you'd like off of wherever, but this one works pretty good. You definitely don't want to go any lower than that. I'm going to go over the results of my findings here and my testing. This is the first test I did on this sheet here, and I did it with the 20 watt fixed focus laser module. And the difference between having Air Assist and not having Air Assist is quite apparent here. And so one thing I've noticed is if you're doing engraving, so this was vector engraving, I did this at 2500 millimeters a minute, and Air Assist is notorious for blowing the smoke back down and embedding it onto your work surface. Some people recommend having Air Assist that blows sideways to blow it away, but what I found and what I do sometimes when I'm doing a raster engraving is I'll choke off the inlet to my compressor. I usually just stick a pen in the inlet tube, and that keeps just enough air coming out of the nozzle to make sure that the smoke isn't going up onto the lens and getting it dirty, but it doesn't embed the smoke like it does if it's going full blast. You just have to make sure that once you start cutting, if you have a cut layer set immediately after that, that you remove the choke. But in terms of cutting, if you're doing any sort of cutting, I mean, you absolutely need Air Assist. You get much cleaner cuts, you get rid of the fear of it really catching fire, and you're able to do it in fewer passes. So this one right here is with the 20 watt with fixed focus at 30 millimeters. This one here I did with the G8 lens, also focused at 30 millimeters. However, I did not do perhaps the best job at focusing it. I still need to experiment with the G8 lens and hone in that focus with the microscope. But I did that with the stock lens up here. Yeah, this one I try to focus it 1 millimeter lower in the surface than this one, but they came out about the same. I found that it's best to focus right onto the surface instead of trying to go into the surface with it. And then here, this final test I did with the stock lens in the 15 watt module, and I gotta say I'm very impressed. I never tried it really at the 30 millimeter focal length, at least not much, because you have to back it away beyond the engagement of that O-ring. So you either have to slather some Teflon on it to hold it in place to keep it focused at 30 millimeters, or you just get, lock it in place with one of my nice brass lock rings. And I know some people online have expressed concern about whether they should get the 15 water or they should get the 20 water. And as you can see, they perform just about the same. Only one extra square is missing here in this one, 15 water with the stock factory lens, compared to the new fixed focus 20 water. So in terms of cutting, you can't go wrong with any of them. And in terms of air nozzles, I don't think you can go wrong with mine either, because whichever setup you got, and I've made it so that it's compatible with each. It's hogged out inside enough to clear the big head of the stock lens, and I've got that orifice size as tiny as I can get it without blocking the beam path. So I hope that you guys have learned something and that my video was inspirational. If you're interested in getting a nozzle, please reach out to me. I'll have contact information down in the description. And please, if you haven't already, like the video and subscribe, because I'm going to have a lot more videos coming up and hopefully disclose a lot more of my findings about lasering. Thank you guys again for your time, and good luck.